Beloved, we're so glad that you've come today. My name is Reverend Laura Ruth Jarrett on behalf of Ben Perkins, my colleague and brother, and David Brown, my brother, and Hope Central Church. We want to welcome you to this place, and we're honored that we could provide a home for you to do the work of saying goodbye, of grieving, and celebrating the life of Christopher. We have a couple of bookkeeping or housekeeping things to do. There are facilities down this hall. There's a family bathroom where anyone can go in, and if you'd like a little more privacy, you're welcome to go into my office, which is also down this hall and to the right. Also, we would like to ask you to preserve our Wi-Fi connections. If you don't need to be on Wi-Fi for your accessibility, please would you turn Wi-Fi off. If you need to turn it on to text or to be in contact with those you love, please do that, for we want you to be welcomed and in touch with those that you need to be for your own consolation and welcome. Every service that we have at Hope Central Church, we read this welcome so that you, no matter who you are, no matter your religious path, no matter what you understand or believe about that which is greater than us, may feel welcome here. There is nothing you can do in our church building that will be inappropriate or unwelcome. Welcome to Hope Central Church. Welcome to all who have no church home, need strength, want to follow Christ, have doubts, or do not believe. Welcome to new visitors and to old friends. Welcome to grandparents, parents, and children. Welcome to single and partnered people. Welcome to people of all colors, cultures, abilities, sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, to old and to young, to believers and questioning believers, and welcome to questioning believers. Welcome to everyone. Today, we're invited to live into God's love, peace, and justice. Now, friends, to begin our service, I would tell you that Yo-Yo Ma has recorded a video as a special offering for this service. Mr. Ma sincerely regrets being unable to join us in person and hopes that this video offers a fitting musical moment of reflection and remembrance for us in attendance. In addition to the Bach listed in the service leaflet, Mr. Ma begins this video with an excerpt from Adnan Saygun's Partita.
In her breathtaking poem, In Blackwater Woods, poet and longtime resident of Provincetown, Massachusetts, Mary Oliver wrote these immortal words. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. Good afternoon, beloved. My name is Benjamin Perkins, and I am fortunate to have considered Christopher Marrion a very dear friend. 7 years ago, he and Randy were present for my ordination in this very church. They were both with me on a cold and snowy January evening when I celebrated my 50th birthday. Christopher was not religious or spiritual in a traditional sense, yet his life's work spoke volumes. And I realized that, in fact, he had a deep and abiding appreciation for the transcendent and the sublime. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention his appreciation for the ridiculous, his wonderful sense of humor, how much joy we both derived from a wickedly hilarious Saturday Night Live skit, Liza Minnelli Tries to Turn Off a Lamp, featuring Kristen Wiig. If you haven't seen it, you have to see it. But the fingerprints of beauty and transcendence can be found on his Instagram feed, where, in his own words, he described himself as supporting the transformative work of artists and art organizations, baker, musician, history nerd, husband, lucky to be here. I will selfishly add that we were lucky that you were with us. And now I am honored to offer this opening prayer in his memory. Please pray with me. O Holy One of many names and no names, of all that was and is and shall be, we gather together today in the shadow of what has been a devastating loss of our dear Christopher Marrion, husband, son, friend, artist, baker, musician, history nerd, and lover of life. We lift up those who feel the crushing weight of his untimely passing most intensely: his beloved Randy, his parents, siblings, and extended family members, his dear friends, and his chosen family. And we resolve to support them and each other with fierce embraces and tender words, knowing that while we can never bring him back, we can keep his spirit alive in all that we say and do. Therefore, let us commit to completing Chris's life's work, supporting and creating beauty, loving each other and each other, loving life and each other, always, for love's sake. Amen.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jamie Berjali. Thank you, Randy. This is really an honor to be able to speak about Chris. I was going to wear my Marrion the half-shell costume, but it clashed with my shoes, so I left that at home. And some of you will understand what that means. You are with me, that is good. You are gone, the goodness remains. That's an unattributed quote my family found on a nightstand after my mother passed away in 2003. And I've shared it many times over the years with many people in this room. And I hope the sentiment brings comfort to you, Randy, and to the Marrion family. And it does for me, and I think it's really true. You are with me, that is good. You are gone, and the goodness remains. Chris's goodness does indeed remain in so many ways, in so many places. I met Chris 29 years ago when I was a fresh-faced 20-something who had just accepted a job at the AIDS Action Committee in Boston. It's amazing to see how many AIDS Action folks are in the room today. Working there was one of the great gifts of my life and an incredible bonding experience. It's a gift that keeps giving. It's a gift that allowed me to meet Chris. It allowed me to meet my husband and so many friends that are in this room, and it started a 30-year friendship. Chris and I connected on my first day of work because he had a small Saint of the Day calendar at his cubicle. So it gave me a funny excuse to go talk to him, and we'd regale each other with bizarre stories of the saints' lives, and they are bizarre. Chris and I had different spiritual journeys, but we did share some similarities. We were both raised in large Catholic families, and Chris had a great appreciation for Catholic culture, or Catholic kitsch, I might refer to it as. One of our ongoing great debates over the years, well, what was the best religious movie? And no, Doug Spencer, it's not Sister Act. We narrowed it between Miracle at Fatima and Song of Bernadette. Despite Chris's Portuguese roots, we did come to agreement. It was Song of Bernadette, a masterpiece for the explanation for the miracle at Lourdes, France. So for those of you who don't know, there's a patron saint for almost anything. That's why Chris's 365-day-a-year calendar was stock full. Chris, it's kind of appropriate. He could have been a patron saint of so many things, of music, of dance, baking, gardening, volunteering, fundraising, and he was clearly the patron saint of Facebook. My God, his clever posts he would put on there over the years, whether you love or hate Facebook, it was Chris Marrion's canvas. And his goodness does remain there. I used to hate Facebook memories, and now I love it. The last 2 months, so many funny comments have popped up from Chris. And it's really a gift that will continue just to keep on giving. So I want to talk a little bit more about our own saint, Saint Christopher. He should be the patron saint of appreciation. No one appreciated a moment or a person or a situation like Chris, and he would always comment on it. Sometimes discreetly, sometimes not so discreetly. Chris's goodness, it lives on in his volunteer work. Chris, for many years, volunteered for Bagley and then on the board, and then he became the chair of the board. And I think of the goodness he leaves behind in the life-saving work they do for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender youth in our city. It lives on in how people become more open-minded. At last week's service in Connecticut, one of Doug's roommates from college came up to Doug Spencer and myself, and he said, Chris used to really challenge me back in the early 80s about what it was like to be gay and the struggles with that. And this person who came up to us, he said, it really made me a more open and inclusive person over my life. Again, his goodness remains. His goodness remains in music. You'll really get a sense of that, obviously, in today's service. So I'm going to provide a little bit lighter musical note. For years, Chris, my husband Michael, and I would volunteer for the annual Walk for Hunger in Boston. And we were at the 18-mile mark each year on the corner of Memorial Drive and Massachusetts Avenue on the Charles River. And our job was to help the 40,000 walkers safely get across the bridge, but they gave us a megaphone. Chris would grab the big bullhorn, and every time he would see someone with a College of the Holy Cross sweatshirt, he would grab the megaphone and go, "Lift high the cross." And the people would love it. We would crack up. He did this probably like 45 times over the course of 3 hours. What some of you might not know is Chris's father and his brother went to Holy Cross, as did many members of my family. So now whenever I pass that corner or see a College of the Holy Cross shirt, I think of Chris Marrion. So his goodness remains there. It remains in the neighborhood of Dorchester when he and Randy built a beautiful home over the years. It remains in his beautiful garden, in the strain of the starter yeast for his baked goods that he has, and in the many items he sewed. Chris sewed me a pandemic mask, but I did not think that it would be church appropriate. I can explain that later. And you know, with the pandemic, I know many of us feel of time that was stolen, time with Chris and other loved ones. And that was really hard. We feel cheated. I know there are some people today who couldn't come because of the pandemic, and I know that's really hard for people. Chris was really great during the pandemic. Chris was very introverted. I was his super extroverted friend, and he would send me these funny texts for the last 2 years. "How are you doing? How are you holding up?" Because for Chris, the pandemic was a dream. It's like, oh, I don't have to see people. And for me, it was torture. But that's what I mean about his sense of appreciation. He would reach out and I would get these funny little out of the blue messages like, "Are you holding up okay? How are you surviving with no human contact?" Chris's goodness remains in the fundraising work, in the groups that he helps strengthen and sustain across our city. Groups like AIDS Action, the Boston Lyric Opera, Children's Hospital, the Silk Road Project, the BU College of Fine Arts, and the Hanover Theater in Worcester, where he really loved working there. He had really found his sweet spot professionally. Chris gave a lot back to the fundraising profession, and it was a shared bond between us as I also do advancement work. And his loss is going to be really deeply felt in the philanthropic community. I see a few people in the room who work with Chris through professional associations, and he was really highly regarded professionally. But for me, so many of my memories with Chris remain tied to Provincetown. I see many faces in the audience today that are connections to Chris and Randy through that place. And Provincetown to me is a place where you make friends and rekindle friendships. I'd especially look forward each August to late in August because my vacation would cross over with Chris and Randy's and some other friends who are online today. And it was just a great way to sustain friendship, and it sustained it all these years. Probably for 20 years we had crossed over at that time of the summer. My husband, Doug, Spencer, and I were all in Provincetown when we got the devastating news about Chris. And I woke up the morning after getting this awful news, and I was a bit foggy. Doug and I had downed several whiskeys. We cried and we laughed, and tears turned into laughter. But I really woke up feeling incredibly sad and just depleted. So I went for a walk, and I have a house in the West End in Provincetown. So I started up Commercial Street, and then all the memories of Chris's goodness just started flowing back. I walked by the P-Town Inn and thought of all the wonderful days at Little Beach. I thought of Randy cocooned in 6 million sheets and towels so the ray of sun wouldn't touch his skin. And then I walked by Delft Haven, and it's one of my favorite memories of Chris because that's where the white party is every year. I thought of Mormon special underwear and Chris in costume. And then I passed by the Red Inn, and I thought of birthday dinners with the Germans. And I got to the end of Commercial Street, and I took a right, and then you look up, and I see the house where Chris and Randy celebrated their wedding. I look across at the marsh and think the millions of times you put your backpack on your head and truck through to go to Boy Beach. And it was just great. And I circled back into town, so I walked all the way back in town. I got down to Pearl Street, and I thought of Jim Smith and Rob Clifford and Greg Brown and Chris, and we had no money then, and we would rent a house every summer on Pearl Street. And it was just awesome. Like, it was like 30 years of memories flooding back at once. And of course, I got to the center of town, and I thought of, you know, an August night in the warm glow from the porch bar as we're laughing, and of course, the boat slip and tea dance and the incredible memories there and the connection. You know, it was just overwhelming, the mix of emotions. I was like happy and then sad and crying. So I got back to my house, and it was like literally every block had a story. And I was like, now what do I do? And I was just sitting in the house, and then it dawned on me. I grabbed my TV remote, and I'm like, play movie, play Song of Bernadette. And I watched it, and I cried and laughed, and I just felt that Chris would think it was a fabulous movie choice at the time. But I was, in the end, thankful that Chris was part of my life for nearly 30 years. He's a friend that appreciated me, my family, and so many things in my life. And I'll miss him deeply. And I'll continue always to look for the people, places, and things that his goodness remains. And so I thought on this gray, cloudy day as I got here, that it would be appropriate to end with the words of one more saint, St. Augustine. God of our life, there are days when the burdens we carry chafe our shoulders and weigh us down, when the road seems dreary and endless, the skies gray and threatening, when our lives have no music in them, and our hearts are lonely, and our souls have lost their courage. Flood the path with light. Turn our eyes to where the skies are full of promise. Tune our hearts to the brave music. Give us a sense of comradeship with heroes and saints of every age, and so quicken our spirits that we be able to encourage the souls of all who journey with us on the road of life to your honor and glory. Thank you.
Und morgen wird die Sonne wieder scheinen und auf dem Wege, den ich gehen werde, wird uns die Glücklichen sie wieder einen inmitten dieser sonnenatmenden Erde. Und zu dem Strand, dem weiten Wogenblauen, werden wir still und langsam niedersteigen. Stumm werden wir uns in die Augen schauen und auf uns sinkt das Glück des Sturmes schweigen.
I'm Douglas Spencer, although you folks can read, so I suppose you knew that already. Um, I'd like to echo Jamie's appreciation to Randy and to the Marrions for letting me be a part of this. As one of my biggest fans, Chris would be on the edge of his seat right now. What's he gonna say? I hope it's scandalous. Then he remembered I was talking about him. There's no scandal here right now, but there will be an open mic at the reception afterwards, which we encourage everyone to take advantage of. And all you have to do is just read the text messages you have from him, and that will probably be entertaining enough. Chris, of course, had many fans, as is evidenced by all the people here, all the people that came to New London last weekend, and all the people on the Zoom. Hi, Zoom. He had many fans, and for good reason. He was incredibly smart. He was kind and generous, and as everyone knows, exceedingly hilarious. He would drop punchlines when you least expected, and it would just, everything would have to stop. He was also well loved because he was a world in and of himself. He had so many facets to him, so many interests and skill sets and obsessions and talents that he was just always so interesting to be around. Of all of his passions, of all of his skill sets, of all of the things that he did well, the part of his world that he loved the most, I think, was music, as is evidenced here today. It's also, I think, the part he shared the least, because for him, music was personal. Music kept Chris grounded, music kept Chris centered, music kept Chris Chris. It's music that's inspired my remarks today, although not music that Chris would ever listen to, but I don't think that matters. Last month, I went to an Andy Grammer concert. It was great. I'll tell you all about it later. There was a song that he sang I hadn't heard before called Saved My Life. And before he started singing, he said to the audience, quote, "Think of someone you would say saved your life." And then the first lyric of the song is, "I don't think you realize what you've done for me." I immediately thought of Chris. Chris saved my life. Not in a literal way. He didn't pull me from a burning building or keep me from jumping in front of a train, but figuratively, more subtly, more gracefully, more Chris. 2.5 decades ago, when we were roommates, I was still relatively new to this big gay world I had joined, and Chris was there. He helped me find my way, navigate the path, and understand its ever so unique rituals and customs. And so whenever I had dived headfirst into some big rainbow pool, Chris was there when I came up for air. As some of the lyrics in that song go, you stood by my side. You knew what to say when I was fading. You believed in me more than I did myself. That never changed. After we went our separate ways, that never changed. He was always there. We didn't talk every day, we didn't see each other every week, but there was never a time in my life where I didn't know that Chris Marrion was there for me, where I doubted the resolve of our friendship, where I felt alone once I remembered that Chris Marrion was in my life. If it were my name on the program today, I would hope that he would have similar sentiments, although he would never own up to the Andy Grammer part. Because during that same time that we lived together, as I was finding my way in the world, he was pulling back from it. He was going into himself, and he was checking out. And I'd like to think that maybe I saved his life a little bit at the same time by pulling him back. We pulled each other back into the middle. If I take any meaning from my nearly 30-year friendship with Chris, from his inexplicable, hideously unfair, and will never make any sense death, it is this. Chris showed us that we have that power. We have that power to save each other's life a little bit here and there every single day. I don't think we realize what we can do for one another. We can be there when someone needs us. We can know what to say when they are fading. We can believe in them more than they believe in themselves. Now, Chris is literally not here anymore. But figuratively, nothing's changed. I know he will still continue to help save my life on a regular basis. And through his example, I think we can do the same for each other. So, Chris, thank you. I love you. I miss you. And rest in peace.
But first he bended and then
Dalla cielo rosa, oublie encore saison, quelque fleur éclose, où l'on caille à pleine main, lys, chèvre, feuille, jasmin. Je veux faire le chemin où ton pied se pose. Je veux faire le chemin où ton pied se pose. S'il est un rêve d'amour, parfumé de roses, où l'on trouve chaque jour quelque douce chose, un rêve que Dieu bénit, où l'âme s'unit. Oh, je veux faire la nuit où ton cœur se pose. Je veux faire la nuit où ton cœur se pose.
I had an out not to speak, but I did last week, so I'm going to this week. I didn't really prepare anything, so I wanted to speak from the heart. To everyone here, I want to say thank you for being here. Everybody in this room was important to us, was important to Chris, to his mission in life, to support the arts, to support people, to be there for everyone that he could. A few things I wanted to mention. First of all, a few people I wanted to thank. First of all, Doug and Jamie. It was my honor, and I know it was Chris's honor that he could be here. It was not even a question who should be up here today. That two of his closest friends and confidants, the two people he would always gravitate to in the room and be off in a corner with Jamie or with Doug talking about something. To those people that he's worked with, Laura, and to others that he's worked with over the years, he loved his work. He loved making a difference in the world. When you go out there and you support your local nonprofit or your local arts organization or whatever you do in life, remember Chris. That was his mission in life. That was one of the most important things to him. So think of him every time you do that. Think of him when you go out there and you see those organizations and you're writing the check or volunteering or whatever you're doing. Carry that on for Chris, and he'll live on through all of us. To all of our friends watching from home and from here in the room, from around the world, we thank you for all of your support and for being part of us. We know that over the next year, we'll see you again in person, and we'll celebrate Chris many times as we continue on in this life for him and without him. A few things I wanted to mention. So A couple of things. The tie I'm wearing, I know it's not quite funeral appropriate, but Chris made me this tie for his birthday, for my birthday one year, one of his many talents that he had. He also got me, I'll show you later, I'm wearing sleeve garters, which are these magical things. I have an unusually large neck, a deceptively large neck. It's about 17 inches, so my sleeves are always down to here when I buy shirts. So Chris found on Google sleeve garters for Doug and I. We both got them. That hold your sleeves perfectly, which was just the epitome of Chris. Chris's urn, I couldn't put him in some $30 pewter. He hated pewter. Catherine, he would not have gotten pewter for you. And so I went on eBay and I spent, it was actually, it was soothing and it was healing to go and find what was appropriate for Chris. So the urn that I found is from 1840 Bavaria during the reign of Ludwig I, I believe. I had to go on Wikipedia. Chris would have known this off the top of his head. And he would have been able to tell us the history of Ludwig. I can't, I'm sorry, but I'll try to look it up on Wikipedia between here and D-Bar and fill you in later. But it's old, which Chris never met anything made before 1900 or written before 1900 that he didn't love. It's beautiful. It's from a place that is so meaningful to us where we feel like we have a second family. And it's fitting of Chris to spend the rest of his time in, sitting on something beautiful and that he is worthy of Chris in these times. And lastly, Chris's voice was in my head saying I had to get up here, and I had to speak. It was my job, as well as I felt like I needed to get up here and say the things he couldn't to all of you, and how much you all meant to him, and how much he loved all of you. And to Chris, this is the part I can never get through. Thank you for choosing me 22 years ago. Thank you for teaching me every day to be a better person. I'll continue that. I owe that to you. Every day I ask myself, how would Chris handle this? What would Chris say? And that will always be a part of me. I'll always be Crandy. For those of you who don't know, Chris's family dubbed us Crandy, and Noah told this story last week, and since he's not here, I'm gonna tell it for him. Dubbed us Crandy. That was our celebrity combo name. And I'll always be Crandy. He's just a part of me, and he'll always be a part of me. And I think he's a part of all of us. And as long as we share his stories, as long as we remember him, come tell us the stories, tell others his stories, and he'll stay alive in all of us. Thank you.
sur ma lèvre, où voltige une flamme, éclair d'amour que Dieu aux et d'ange je deviens femme. Soudain mon âme
Leave it to Chris to bring us the most beautiful thing today. I met Chris the first time, I think, when we were being carpooled out to Holy Cross to sing on Sunday mornings with their chapel choir. I'm going to say we were 12, but we weren't. We were brand new to the musical community, and Chris and I became good friends at that point. Although Chris was part of our musical circle for decades, he was family, you know, the kind of family that you choose for Dave and me. March 4th, 2010, Chris sends out an email blast. It's a save the date for the August wedding. Dave and I are gleeful, and I respond to Chris about our glee and how excited we were, and that we were running around the house trying to figure out what to wear 5 months before the wedding. Chris's response, maybe something that matches your scar. Maybe an eye patch? So don't let that sharp humor disguise for a moment how beautifully this tender man supported us during a time that was particularly challenging. He was equally supportive of my call to become a chaplain and then my call to the ordained priesthood in the Episcopal Church, which is why I'm wearing the collar. So, at D-Bar, you can feel free to check in with my husband about all the irreverent texts about the collar. But we weren't going to share those today. So the last phrase that Ben brought up for us in his Instagram, that he was lucky to be here, Chris and I shared that a lot, that everyday gratitude. I want to leave us today, speaking of everyday gratitude, I was tasked to remind you, as if you would forget, in your bulletin, At the bottom is the address for D-Bar. I hope all of you can be there and share your memories with all of us. I want to leave you with an altered version of a benediction and blessing that I often give, and I offer it with love for Chris to you. So if you could please stand as you are able. My friends, life is short, and we do not have much time to gladden the hearts of those who are on this journey with us. So be swift to love, hasten to be kind, and may the blessing of the divine and the blessing of knowing Chris travel with you and change how you love now and always. May it be so. Amen. See you at the D-Bar.